Cassie Rex. Welcome to Damn Weird. And in this, I'm going to attempt to organize my collective thoughts on various unusual events and things and people that have occurred and things I've studied. Just a way to organize them here onto YouTube for me. Now we're going to start with some of the easier things, simply because we need kind of a foundation for our studies, for something to look at. These are things that maybe shouldn't exist, but do. The Cassie Rex is a gigantic theropod cryptid from the Democratic Republic of Congo. It is said to be a surviving theropod dinosaur, such as the T-Rex, although it has also been depicted as a huge monitor lizard, as well as a crocodile. In 1932, Swedish plantation owner John Johnson was traveling with a servant to the Kasai Valley. They encountered a rhinoceros and tried to avoid detection, when a large creature rushed from the undergrowth and attacked the rhino. Johnson fainted and the servant ran away. When Johnson recovered, he saw the creature eating the rhino. It was a reddish in color with a blackish colored stripes. It was later said it had a long snout, numerous teeth. The creature he cited was about 43 feet long, was a Tyrannosaurus, and also said the legs were thick. It reminded me of a lion built for speed. However, no Tyrannosaurus was known to live in Africa. But one theropod similar in size report that lived in Africa is none other than the Carcharodontosaurus saharicus. This was an apex predator of the early Cretaceous Africa, also known to compete for food with the Spinosaurus. The great Tyrannosaurus and most feared member of the dinosaur kingdom. To think that this creature of such renown, such awe, and such sheer terror could possibly be still alive today simply baffles the human mind. Though seemingly ludicrous, could a living Tyrannosaurus, or quite possibly close relative Tyrannosaurus, really be alive today? Is it scientifically possible? In reality, very few people have reported seeing what has been titled the Cassie Rex. But the reports of those who have are all strikingly similar. The size differs slightly, but the color of the creature remains the same, a dark red. It may be a Tyrannosaurus, but the Tabosaurus is closely related to the T-Rex. It might well fit the description of the Cassie Rex, if the animal did exist, or does exist. It is believed that the beast, or beasts, live very deep within the Congo jungles, only venturing out when food is scarce. In brief, the Tabosaurus is a slightly larger specimen from the Tyrannosaurus, roughly the size of a school bus. It has possessed powerful jaws and long serrated teeth. If the reports were of a true specimen, it would bring vital and unparalleled information to the scientific community regarding the dinosaur kingdom itself. To begin with, it would reveal that the dinosaurs were creatures of remarkable color, rather than plain, rather bland, dusty-colored animals, such as the elephant or hippopotamus. Several species perhaps possessed magnificently colored design and plumage, and every description of a Cassie Rex has been in agreement with one another of a dark shade of red with black stripes running vertically. Coincidence from a logical standpoint? Secondly, it would bring conclusive evidence to the Tabosaurus and their various close relatives were hunters. Though thought to be the case with the majority of scientists, some skeptic evidence has shown otherwise. Using the T-Rex as an example, one strength indicator test conducted years ago on a femur revealed a strength indicator of only 9 units, which indicated that it could have been very fast. Contrary to movie depictions of a sprinting T-Rex, by comparison, a female African elephant on the same test showed a strength indicator of 6 to 14 units, and a Tyrannosaurus could simply not hunt at such slow speeds. However, the plantation owner reported that the creature leaped on the rhinoceros out of a nearby dense foliage, conducting a surprise attack method rather than chasing down method. In contrast, we mustn't ignore this. His vivid description, his legs were thick. It reminds me of a lion built for speed. Lastly, if more information was discovered of the encounter, it could reveal to us whether if it was warm or cold-blooded animal. This subject is still highly disputed amongst scientists and paleontologists. Although it is true, authorities believe that dinosaurs through reptiles were warm-blooded, we were far from being taken any dogmatic stance. Regions in Central Africa, specifically from Lekuana Swamp, a region which covers an area the size of Florida, still remains 80% unexplored. Reports of dinosaurs continue to pour out of these locations, and until we have adequately searched throughout the land of the unknown, this land located on the dark continent, we may never know if the dinosaur world most popular figure still walks the earth today. The point I would like to make on all these cryptid dinosaurs, the value of one living today would answer so many questions about them and their evolution, as well as our own. So I would hope that if enough evidence shows up, that the scientists would go check it out. The purchase of Manhattan. In 1629, Peter Minuit negotiated a famous purchase of Manhattan Island for cloth, beads, and other trinkets to a total value of about $25. The Dutch later made an attempt to transplant the patroon system to the region dominated by the Upper Hudson. But feudalism in any form was unsuited to the wilderness. Although the number of colonists increased slowly, the town gradually assumed a prosperous, even a wealthy air. The comfortable life of the traders of this era shaped its social and economic structure for many years after Dutch rule disappeared. Bigfoot. In the history of the natural world to the supernatural, I found many weird things. But just because I don't know what it is doesn't make it supernatural. While the true heart of science is to always question even yourself. In the end, I have become an objective atheist. I am an atheist, but I want there to be more. Also commonly known as Sasquatch, is the name given to the creatures that is said to inhabit the forest, and mainly in the Pacific Northwest. And in American folklore, Bigfoot is usually described as a large, hairy, bipedal humanoid. The clincher for me on this one, as far as belief goes, is the Native American history. Once again, I will listen to the local strangers and barbarians, because they are the true experts. From them, we must learn of their land. Wild men stories are found among the indigenous people of the Pacific Northwest coast. Native stories can be confidently related to the Sasquatch occur throughout the Pacific Northwest. Their distribution corresponds to the area where white man accounts are concentrated. The legends existed before there was a single name for this creature, and that they differed in their detail both regionally and between families in the same community. and that similar stories of wild men are found on every continent. I also add here that it has been recorded that the natives in the area have a shamanic practice where an upcoming shaman returns to the wild ways of nature and lives as a wild man. Some say this may be the reason for the Bigfoot sightings, but I ask, are they simply choosing to copy the lifestyle of a living creature, the original wild man? Ecologists argue that most creatures have human-like giants in their folk history. We have this need for some larger-than-life creature. Each language had its own name for the creature featured in the local version of such legends. Members of one of the oldest tribes, the Lumni, tell tales about a local version of Bigfoot. The stories are similar to each other in the general description, but details about the creature's diet and activities differ between different family stories. Some regional versions contained more nefarious creatures. The Stihaya, or the Quiaquiana, were a nocturnal race that children were told not to say the names of, lest the monsters bear and come carry off a person, sometimes to be killed. In 1847, Paul Kane reported stories by the native people about the Skookums, a race of cannibalistic wild men, commonly described as having red hair. Less menacing versions exist, such as the one recorded by Reverend Elkanah Walker in the 1840s. Walker, a Protestant missionary, recorded stories of giants among the Native Americans living near present-day Spokane, Washington. The Indians said that these giants lived on and around the peaks of nearby mountains and stole salmon from the fishermen's nets. Local stories were compiled by Indian agent W. Dave Burns in a series of Canadian newspaper articles in the 1920s, recounting stories told to him by the people of the Chehalis and others. They maintained, as do other indigenous people around the region, that the Sasquatch are very real and take great umbrage when it is suggested that they are merely legendary. According to the eyewitness accounts, the Sasquatch prefers to avoid the white man. It was Burns who first borrowed the term Sasquatch and used it in his articles to describe a hypothetical single type of creature reflected to the stories. A story told to Charles Hill Tout by Chief Mashilla of a tribe up in British Columbia in 1898 gives another Sahelish variant of the name, meaning benign-faced ones, Gigantopithecus. Bigfoot proponents Grover Krantz and Jeffrey H. Bourne believe that Bigfoot could be a relict population of Gigantopithecus. According to Bourne, all Gigantopithecus fossils were found in Asia, and as many species of animals migrated across the Bering Land Bridge, it is not unreasonable to assume that Gigantopithecus might have as well. Gigantopithecus fossils have not been found in the Americas. The only recovered fossils are of mandibles and teeth, leaving uncertain about the Gigantopithecus' locomotion. Krantz has argued, based on the extrapolation of the shape of the mandibles, that Gigantopithecus blacki could have been bipedal. However, the relevant part of the mandible is not present in any fossil. As an alternate view of that, Gigantopithecus was quadrupedal, and it has been said that Gigantopithecus' enormous mass might have made it difficult for it to adapt a bipedal gait, or like a bear, unable to maintain it for long periods. Matt Carman presented another view regarding the Gigantopithecus hypothesis. The trouble with this account is that Gigantopithecus was not a hominin, and maybe not even a crown group hominid. Yet, the physical evidence implies that Bigfoot is an upright bipedal with buttocks and long, stout, permanently abducted hallux. These are hominin autapomorphines, not found in any other animals or other bipeds. It seems unlikely that Gigantopithecus could have evolved these uniquely hominin traits in the parallel. Bernard G. Campbell wrote, "The Gigantopithecus is in fact extinct. Has been questioned by those who believe it survives as a Yeti in the Himalayas and the Sasquatch in the northwest American coast, but the evidence for these creatures is not convincing. Another possibility is an extinct homine, Of the species of the Paranthropus, such as the Paranthropus robustus, with its crested skull and bipedal gait, was suggested by primatologist John R. Napier and anthropologist Gordon Strasberg as a possible candidate for Bigfoot's identity, despite the fact that fossils of the Paranthropus are found only in Africa. Michael Roog of the Bigfoot Discovery Museum presented a comparison between human Gigantopithecus and Meganthropus skulls. He favorably compared a modern tooth suspected of coming from a Bigfoot to the Meganthropus fossil teeth, noting that when enamel on the surface of a Meganthropus fossil originated from Asia, and the tooth was found near Santa Cruz, California. Some suggest Neanderthal Homo erectus or Homo heidelbergensis to be the creature, but no remains of any of these species has been found in the Americas. But currently, those theories hold up, for there have been over 10 variants of the human race, and some could interbreed, such as Neanderthal, and did with the Homo sapiens, and they were also a descendant of the Heidelbergus. Same with I believe the Deniscian, which was up in the Alps. Mildly enough, same place the Yetis are. Mainstream scientists do not consider the subject of Bigfoot an area of credible science, and there have been a limited number of formal scientific studies of Bigfoot. Evidence such as the 1967 Patterson-Gimlin film have been falsely labeled as a hoax, in my opinion. So they provide no supportive data of any scientific value either way because of their questionability. As with other similar beings, climate, food, supply issues would have made such a creature surviving in some of the areas unlikely, while other areas very much so. Great apes have not been found in the fossil record in the Americas, so no Bigfoot remains have also been found. People have been found here, yet they came from Asia, they say. So they have been here, so they are near now. Like the people, they could have come here without bringing the great apes with them. They could have went either way on that one. Just because there's a land bridge doesn't mean everything came across. It was very cold too. The breeding population of such animals would be so large that it would account for many more purported sightings than currently occur, making the existence of such an animal an almost certain impossibility. I mean, who would want to hide from humans? We're lovable and only sometimes practice genocide. With their bad smell commonly related to sulfur, as if they were maybe living underground, maybe burying their dead in caves undiscovered, as some native tribes have been known to do. Where'd they get the idea? Anthropologist Jeffrey Meldrum has said that the fossil remains of an ancient giant ape called the Gigantopithecus could turn out to be the ancestor of today's commonly known Bigfoot. John Napier asserts that the scientific community's attitude towards Bigfoot seems primarily from insufficient evidence. After what the Huffington Post described as a 5-year study of purported Bigfoot, also known as Sasquatch DNA samples, Texas veterinarian Melba Ketchum and her team announced that they found proof that the Sasquatch is a human relative that arose approximately 15,000 years ago as a hybrid cross of the modern Homo sapien with an unknown primate species. Ketchum called for this to be recognized officially, saying that government at all levels must recognize them as an indigenous people and immediately protect their human and constitutional rights against those who would see in their physique and cultural differences a license to hunt, trap, and kill them. I grew up with Ape Canyon being known as a Bigfoot place, as the gorge along the edge of the plains of Aram, on the southeast shoulder of Mount St. Helens, in the state of Washington. The gorge narrows to a close at 8 feet at one point. The name alludes to a reported encounter with several ape men in 1924, an event later incorporated into Bigfoot folklore. Their allegations were reported on July 16, 1924. Fred Beck, one of the miners, claimed that they shot and possibly killed at least one of these creatures, precipitating an attack on their cabin, during which the creature bombarded the cabin with rocks and tried to break in. Now, a lot of animals in the woods can throw rocks, so it's either people doing it to them or something else. Ape Canyon was heavily impacted by the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens, though. Adjacent to a steep rocky canyon is the present Ape Canyon Trail, popular with hikers and mountain bikers. On the south side of the mountain is another feature called Ape Cave. Some have reported seeing park rangers collecting and disposing of bodies after the eruption, although a large, half-burnt corpse of a bear hanging from a helicopter does not necessarily establish as proof. I closely feel that there is definitely something there, though. Something that we have failed to identify. A majority of these sightings are misidentifications of animals. But, like with UFO, only one has to be unexplained to give us reason to research. Research breaks it down to 4 groups, ignoring the possibility of animal sighting. Hoax, ancient hominid, caveman's type thing like that, native shaman, and ape, as in the Gigantopithecus. So looking at these options, I also look at the main difference between Bigfoot-like creatures around the world. So there may be more than one answer to this, so this needs to be applied to each one separately. I can't say this to apply to all of them. I'm now just going to deal with the Bigfoot itself, which is the Pacific Northwest variant. Hoax, ancient hominid as in cavemen, etc., native shamans in their cultural practices, or ape as in a Gigantopithecus, or some derivative there between, because it's been a long time since the Gigantopithecus, so it probably evolved some. So looking at these options, I also look at many different Bigfoot-type creatures are found around the world. And there is not one answer to fit them all. Every one of them have to be seen for their own regional and area as separate. When we start just lumping them all together, we fail to actually look at the differences of what they are. It's like, what if we lumped all furry 4-legged things together? We get confusing lists that really makes no sense. I believe that there are some hoaxes, so eliminate those, but be careful and open-minded to the scientific option of it when you're looking at it. Maybe you're wrong on some things they've seen, but look for some other details that maybe the human vision is not perfect, but see about the other senses. That might help you identify if there is something, but just maybe not what they described. As I said before, the reason that natives do this practice, I believe it is an homage to a true wild man. Shaman do what they do because of nature. They don't tend to make up, they just build upon something, an animal or something in nature. They don't really go around fabricating, but at times they can over-elaborate for religious purposes. Its long-term skill at hiding constantly connotate intelligence. But over 200-pound chimps were recently discovered in mass, not just a couple. The natives said that they were there, but the so-called intelligent Europeans, they did not believe this. Sound familiar? When I was a child, I remember hearing a story about Bigfoot being, at one time, humans abducted a bunch of people and changed them into servants for the humans. And they were to hunt and kill the native hominids, being the wild men, to get rid of all competition and to work for the aliens to getting gold and things like that. The Bigfoot was the hiding human. It's where we would have been before human alteration. As I said, I heard this a long time ago. Of course, there's no evidence on this one. Just thought I'd throw it in there. My favorite pop culture term for him is forest ape. Heard this in Futurama. As well as I firmly believe and have seen no reasonable proof against the Patterson-Gimlin film. I've seen a lot of written proof and a lot of things people have said on it. But when I looked at the evidence, I don't quite see. I don't agree with their findings. Anyone who believes that there's a man in a suit seems to know nothing about the level of costume design and limited capabilities of the equipment used. Example, they didn't have furry spandex to create muscle stretch. If you look at Planet of the Apes, the original version, that was hype at the time. And it wasn't very good. Sometimes something was there, and they did film it. Many have seen and reported it before and since. The native population have documented it in their history and their mythology. It has existed, and hopefully still does, but the full details of what it is, or was, still unknown. In closing, I do actually, in my essay here, in my research, I do believe something's there. Bigfoot is a creature. Details on what it is, we're still working out, but we have to be willing to look. I find a lot of times what people give me as evidence against, such as the natives in their practice, the shamanic rites, actually, in my eyes, become proof for. Granted, I might be crazy, or it might be. Either way, I can only, deal with my opinion on this, and I think they are real. I think most of the sightings aren't, though. There's a lot of animal misunderstandings there. Even nowadays, the case of mange is becoming more active, but that's just nowadays. This is a creature with mythology, with a background. To the detail point that it comes down to differences of what they ate from different areas, some would say that's proof against. I'd say it could relate to when the Bigfoot was at the coast where that family lived, he ate clams and things around and fish. When he was up in the forest, he ate more salmon and further up berries. Different families became exposed to him eating in different places. I've not seen much proof that shows that any different than any animal or very few animals. It doesn't grab a bunch of food, take it somewhere, and make dinner. It eats it there. And that's reflected if someone truly was to report about animals, that would be reflected. But others will see this same thing as proof against. So sadly enough, in the end, someone's going to have to end up probably killing one so that we can see it and then maybe protect the rest of them. Hopefully it's not the wrong one. Thank you.
This is actually from my phone. Actually keep them.